Imagine if Iran and Israel continue to escalate their attacks. What would the Middle East, and indeed the world, look like if tensions between Iran and Israel spiraled into broader conflict? Today, we're delving into this critical and complex scenario. We'll explore the roots of the conflict, the potential for other nations to be drawn into a larger war, and the frightening possibilities of nuclear escalation. We'll apply rigorous analysis and reference statements from relevant public agencies and experts to understand the potential implications. First, let's examine what has caused the long-standing tension between Iran and Israel. The animosity dates back to the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which transformed Iran into an Islamic republic. Since then, Iran's leadership has often expressed hostility toward Israel, refusing to recognize its right to exist. Iran's support for proxy groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza has further intensified the conflict. These groups have engaged in numerous confrontations with Israel, often leading to military responses. Israel, on the other hand, views Iran's regional ambitions and nuclear program as existential threats. The discovery of Iran's clandestine nuclear activities in 2002 led to international sanctions and negotiations, culminating in the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal. However, the U.S. withdrawal from the deal in 2018 under President Trump and the reinstatement of sanctions have reignited tensions. Israel has been suspected of conducting covert operations against Iran's nuclear facilities and scientists. For instance, the assassination of Iranian nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh in 2020 was widely attributed to Israeli intelligence, although Israel has neither confirmed nor denied involvement. Iran has vowed retaliation for such actions, further escalating the situation. Now, imagine if these tit-for-tat actions escalate into open warfare. What other countries could get dragged into a larger conflict? The Middle East is a complex web of alliances and rivalries. An open conflict between Iran and Israel could draw in neighboring countries and global powers. The United States has been a staunch ally of Israel, providing military aid and political support. Under the U.S. commitment to Israel's security, it's plausible that the U.S. could become directly involved. The Pentagon has stated that it maintains a robust posture in the Middle East to deter aggression and protect U.S. interests and allies. On the other side, Iran has strong ties with various non-state actors like Hezbollah and has relationships with countries such as Syria. Russia, too, has strategic interests in the region and has previously intervened in Syria. While it's unlikely that Russia would directly engage militarily on behalf of Iran against Israel, their involvement could complicate the situation. China's growing economic ties with Iran could also factor into the geopolitical dynamics, although China traditionally avoids direct military involvement. The involvement of Gulf states is another factor. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have historically been adversaries of Iran and have recently moved toward normalization with Israel through agreements like the Abraham Accords. A conflict could force these countries to choose sides, potentially leading to a broader regional war. Now, let's consider the possibilities of the war escalating to the use of nuclear weapons. Iran does not possess nuclear weapons, although concerns persist about its nuclear program's potential military dimensions. Israel, while maintaining a policy of ambiguity, is widely believed to possess a nuclear arsenal. The Federation of American Scientists estimates that Israel has approximately 90 nuclear warheads. The risk of nuclear escalation is a grave concern. Dr. Emily Landau, a senior research fellow at the Institute for National Security Studies, has noted that nuclear proliferation in the Middle East could lead to a catastrophic arms race. If Iran were to accelerate its nuclear program in response to an escalating conflict, It could prompt preemptive strikes from Israel to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear capability. The International Atomic Energy Agency monitors nuclear activities, but in a high-conflict scenario, oversight could diminish. The potential for miscalculations increases, and the fog of war can lead to unintended consequences. Furthermore, if other nuclear-armed states become involved, or if tactical nuclear weapons are considered, the situation could deteriorate rapidly. The United Nations has repeatedly called for nuclear non-proliferation and cautioned against the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapon use. What would be the effects of such a war on people and countries? A conventional war between Iran and Israel would already have devastating impacts. Civilian populations would suffer from missile attacks, airstrikes, and ground operations. Infrastructure destruction would lead to humanitarian crises, with shortages of food, water, and medical supplies. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs would likely be overwhelmed by the scale of the crisis. Refugee flows could destabilize neighboring countries like Jordan and Lebanon, which are already hosting large numbers of refugees from other regional conflicts. The global economy could be significantly affected as well. The Strait of Hormuz, near Iran, is a critical choke point for global oil supplies. Any disruption could lead to skyrocketing energy prices worldwide. If nuclear weapons were used, the consequences would be catastrophic. Immediate effects would include massive loss of life, destruction of cities, and long-term environmental damage due to radiation. The World Health Organization has stated that a nuclear war would result in unimaginable devastation, with no adequate medical response possible. Global fallout could include radioactive contamination spreading beyond the region, affecting agriculture and health worldwide. Additionally, the psychological impact and fear of further nuclear exchanges could lead to global instability. Economically, global markets would likely plummet. The uncertainty and disruption of trade routes would have ripple effects, potentially leading to a global recession. Politically, such a conflict could undermine international institutions like the United Nations and weaken global norms against the use of nuclear weapons. It could set a dangerous precedent, encouraging other nations to pursue nuclear capabilities as a deterrent. In summary, an escalating conflict between Iran and Israel poses severe risks not only to the region, but to global peace and stability. The potential for other countries to be drawn into the conflict and the possibility of nuclear escalation underscores the urgency of diplomatic efforts to de-escalate tensions. Now, we'd like to hear from you. First, do you believe that diplomatic efforts can effectively prevent an escalation between Iran and Israel? Or are regional dynamics too complex for peaceful resolutions? Second, how should the international community respond to rising tensions to prevent a larger conflict? Are there specific actions you think global powers should take? Lastly, what are your thoughts on nuclear proliferation in the Middle East? Do you think international agreements and treaties are sufficient to prevent nuclear escalation? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Don't miss out on our next episode, where we'll continue to delve into important what-if scenarios. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, keep wondering, imagine if.